On today's episode of the Game Changer Unlocked, I'm excited to bring two incredible guests. First, Chad Wesley Smith, strength coach, strength athlete, innovator, and founder of Juggernaut Training Systems. Chad is one of the most respected names in modern strength sports with tons of accolades, strongman titles, even threw a little shot back in the day. He's a world-class coach and has built some tools like JuggernautAI, which is an incredible app to really help kind of push you to the next level in strength training. We'll take you behind the scenes and how he builds mental resilience, how he manages performance under pressure, and how he develops athletes from beginners to the elite level, and what strength training can teach us about mindset and really the overall body. If you train, you compete, or you just love high performance demands, this conversation is one you definitely want to catch. Chad, it's exciting. It's been quite a while since we've actually face to face got to see each other and chat.
Yeah, great to see you, Brian.
Hey, your athletic background is really broad. Like I mentioned, shot put, powerlifting, strongman competitions, and you've really built an elite brand. You know, on top of that, what are the kind of the early moments in your career that taught you the hard lessons?
Uh, you know, I started Juggernaut straight out of college. So it was about June 1st, 2009. I would say I started writing what I thought was a business plan. July 1st, we pitched that to an investor. August 1st, we got the keys to a warehouse that became our first gym. And September 1st, we were open uh, with zero clients. We're just kind of, people were like, man, you're so brave to start a business in a recession. And I was like, what is that? I don't even know what you're talking about. Um, and there were a lot of lean, sparse times there, with double digits in the bank account and thinking like, man, I don't know if we're gonna make it to the next month. But the guy that started the company with Nate and I, we just always kind of said to each other, if this doesn't work, it's not going to be because we didn't work hard enough. So it was not going to be for lack of effort that we failed. And I'm going on 16 years later. We've done a pretty good job with it since.
I mean, I actually remember that warehouse and coming down to Orange County and kind of seeing it. And it's amazing to see the growth that you've had really as a coach and as really as an entrepreneur because you're starting something from scratch. Not easy. And there's a lot of lessons. What's one lesson you learned on that early on process of just getting things started?
For us in the early in-person gym business, I think the big takeaway that I had was to treat every client like your most important client. Through really one guy, a small college water polo coach here, and through a couple introductions that he had, and then 2 degrees of separation from them came about 300 clients, all from this one guy, who it was a deal with training him where it was like, hey, we'll train you and your other coaches on your team for really cheap if you'll send your team to us at the end of their season. So this sort of discount deal and just creating a great relationship there led to a lot. So I think whatever business people are in, like if you're in any sort of service business, you're really in a relationship business.
Now, the next part is you started writing books, which was, or training manuals, I'd say. And with your books like the Juggernaut Method and Method 2.0, you talk about the evolution of training. And how's your view on recovery, adaptation, and failure, kind of changed over time from the beginning, from those first books to now?
So from a like a training adaptations, training
Yeah,
recovery.
training, yes.
Yeah, I think I'll still get people who are asking, and they're doing Juggernaut Method, the program from the Juggernaut Method, which is a book I wrote the first one of in 2010 and the second version of in 2012. And I'm kind of like, why are you guys still doing this program I wrote, 13 years ago? Like, I'd hope that I learned a lot more about that. And, in terms of like a foundational changes, I don't think that there's been anything like that truly foundationally change, but the way that it gets applied, is all going to happen through the lens of my development as a coach and athlete. And where I've been really fortunate there is from coming from the track and field background and having this sort of diverse athletic background of, track, football, powerlifting, strongman. I've gotten to be exposed to a lot of different athletes and coaches and kind of become this amalgamation of all of that knowledge. So even when I was on my recruiting trip to Cal, I remember asking Huffins and Jen and Miller about training, about how I should train because I was writing my own training programs at the time. So I had throws coaches and sprints coaches and multis coaches and football strength and conditioning coaches and bodybuilders and physical therapists and everything in between, and been open minded enough to kind of take what's useful from each of those and through that understand a principle based training system, because these principles that apply to effective training like specificity, overload, fatigue management, all that stuff is universal throughout sport. And then with time being able to understand how to make those individual uh, manipulate training for each individual, because what I need and what you need and what I needed, 20 years ago as a freshman in college versus now, or someone who's been doing powerlifting for 6 months versus 6 years, and big ones, tall ones, short ones, small ones, men, women, young and old, that the changes aren't by that they have a different principle that they need to operate by, but the principle gets applied with a little bit different magnitude for different populations.
What kind of brought you into the coaching realm? I mean, what kind of sparked that gave you that spark to get into doing what you're doing?
So I wrote my own training since I was 14 years old. So we didn't have a strength and conditioning coach at the high school that I went to. So I was just scouring the early 2000s internet because I was very interested in, how to get bigger and stronger and faster and perform better as a football player and as a shot putter. And I was, I guess, fortunate that maybe I had some aptitude for it, or just lucky that I stumbled upon better information and was able to build myself. I was a freshman. As a freshman in high school, I was 5'8", 170 pounds, and as a senior in high school, I was 6 foot, 270 pounds. So I did a lot of hard work in between that, and was just kind of always interested in it. And even in high school, our head football coach was like, "Hey, like, you're doing so well with this. Can you grab some of these younger guys and get them going with you?" When I was like a senior in high school, so I'd started coaching some guys then. And my first summer back from Cal, I started running our summer camp for the football team and doing all the strength and conditioning for them. So I was, just turned 19 years old when I had my first, like kind of professional, I guess I was getting paid, coaching job. And, to be able to bring that knowledge and the passion I had for strength and conditioning to other people, because it was, I was not this always been the best, biggest, strongest guy. And through understanding training and working hard at it, was able to, get myself a college scholarship and opportunities that I wouldn't have had. And, now make an entire career and life out of it. To be able to bring that to other people was just something I was always very interested in.
One of the things that you mentioned right at the beginning was that early time when you're just getting Juggernaut kind of in the process and the bank account's low. Was there really, thoughtful moments of like, man, I might fail at this. Like this might not work. And if there was, which I can imagine there were, what did you go through to kind of take yourself out of that process?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly was at the very beginning. When I say we were writing what I thought a business plan was, we're probably so young and naive that it not working never really crossed my mind. And but I've had plenty of times, through the last 16 years of doing this, where it got real lean and real nerve wracking. And like I mentioned, I was never going to let a lack of effort be the shortcoming. And it became a thing where I've said to people that desperation is one of the greatest motivators. Like, if you ever want to meet a deadline, or as someone self-employed, I never had like true deadlines. Like, I don't have to finish writing this book. I'm not going to get fired because of it. I'm just
Right.
going to be broke if I don't if I don't finish it and get it out. So, if you ever want a great motivator to get your writing to get your writing done, or to create the next product or whatever, get get where the bank account's looking pretty low, and you have to get that work done. So those are undoubtedly some of the most productive times in my life, where it seemed like things were getting really tight, and it was like, well, let's think of some ideas. And the kind of guiding thing for Juggernaut the whole time that we've been in creating a lot of content, whether that's books, videos, seminars, is how can we help coaches and athletes reach their goals. So whether that's through training programs, whether it's through educational products, all social media posts, all that type of stuff, is how can we equip them with the knowledge for them to reach their goals. And I don't know that that was ever like the sexiest thing. I was joke that we were like the PBS of fitness YouTube. It's a lot of information, a little bit of humor mixed in here and there, but it's a lot of meat and potatoes. So it was just kind of like, all right, well, we got to think of the next way to do this. Let's think of the next way to do it. Um, yeah, I was desperation is one of the greatest motivators.
When did you realize that it has been made, that Juggernaut has become something that people hear of all the time?
Oh, the big jump for us was from September 2012. I moved out of that first gym that you would have visited, or at least was up, and I was like, I've written these books, and those are doing pretty well, um, and I don't have to pay a expensive Orange County rent to sell them. So I moved to subleasing from another place, and was like, let's really push the online part and start writing a lot. So in September 2012, I think our website was getting about 25,000 unique visitors a month. And by September 2013, it was at 250,000. So that was certainly a big jump. I did get a fun opportunity to be in Muscle and Fitness magazine in early 2011. So I had like seven pages in there, which I never would have fancied myself a centerfold, but there you go. So that was probably a big one, and then getting to travel around, and you know the first seminar I think I ever did was in Boston, actually, and I slept on your couch for it. And that would have been in like November 2010. And since that first one, traveled all over the U.S., Canada, England, Ireland, Scotland, Australia a half dozen times doing seminars. So, when you're sitting on a plane from L.A. to Sydney to go, teach 5 seminars in a 2 week period, that was definitely, if I had enough time to kind of stop and think about it, like, I would have never really guessed when I was cleaning, when we were cleaning the floors and painting the walls in that first gym, that would have been a possibility.
Oh, man, amazing conversation. Hey, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back with Chad Wesley Smith. Coming up, we're going to shift from his personal journey to kind of a bigger picture, how technology and culture are really shaping the state of strength sports today. Don't go anywhere.